All right. So my name is Scott Catt. I've been here with you before. I'm grateful to be here to talk to you about something that I think is really important, an aspect of leadership that I think is often overlooked, and that is that of ethics. Right? What do we do in certain situations? How do we represent ourselves? I own a company called the Alazo Group, and this is what we do: is we train students like you to become the best leaders that you can possibly be. So the title of my presentation today is Leadership. Don't mess it up. No, seriously, don't mess it up. But seriously, be legit. But seriously, don't screw this up. I was pretty creative, I thought. Go ahead. Here we go. What do you love? That's what you have to ask yourself. I think that's important not only in determining what you want to do with your life, but once you decide what you want to do with your life, deciding what your boundaries are going to be, what your priorities are going to be, where you're going to turn your attention. You're going to get back what you focus on the most. And everything in this world has a reward that it gives back, either positive or negative. If you choose to focus on drugs, what's the reward you get back? Addiction. Yeah. But if you choose to focus on, let's say, serving others, what is the reward you get back? Happiness. Right? So you have to look at the long-term things about what you love. Maybe you love drugs right now. Maybe that's your thing. Well, good luck. Talk to me in 20 years, okay? Talk to me when I have been to different prisons and different things. What do you see? You see people who loved a lot of different things. They loved the thrill of the chase. They loved the thrill of trying not to get caught. And what was the reward they got back? A nice orange suit, sweet apartment cell, and a toilet in front of everybody else, right? So I want to talk to you about successful companies that I know versus companies that drown in human resources. Obviously, human resources is that part of business where you talk about where you go to get your paychecks, of course. They also do the training. But at the same time, they're also the ones that are in charge of keeping things ethical, making sure that everything is legal. Okay? I know companies, let's say, like Google, that absolutely invest in their employees. They're so concerned about doing the right thing by their employees that sometimes they may take a loss. Sometimes their projects may not work. But they believe in their employees so much that they're willing to take a chance on them. There's a story I heard of another company, and a guy went out and he made a $3 million mistake. Could you imagine the pressure of what it feels like to make a $3 million mistake? How many of you made a $3 million mistake? I'm thinking these pants might have been a $3 million mistake. But anyway, no. So a $3 million mistake. He goes to his boss and he says, well, I'm fired, aren't I? He said, no, you didn't do it on purpose. In fact, that was the best $3 million I could have spent because I know for a fact you'll never lose that kind of money again. And you're going to be the kind of employee that actually makes me a whole lot more money because you're willing to come and you're willing to fess up and you're willing to learn from your mistake. There's another company I know, and they drove their employees so hard to make a profit that it became acceptable within the company to maybe cut a corner here, cut a corner there, maybe just change the bottom line a little bit. Well, lo and behold, this is one of the biggest banking companies in the world, investment banking. And there was an employee who went rogue and basically just lost the firm millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, and nobody noticed. And he got caught. And what do you think his reason was for why he chose to do something so unethical, something so not right when it comes to leadership? Why do you think he chose to do it? Any ideas? Yeah.
He wanted to see the company crash and burn.
You think so? The exact opposite. He felt so much pressure to succeed. He felt so much pressure to make the company that kind of money. He felt so much pressure to become a superstar that he was willing to take any risk necessary and willing to lie and cheat and hide things in order to make sure that he looked good because the pressure was so high that he was going to get fired if he didn't help get it to a certain point. So it's almost the opposite, right? There are some employees that are out there that are rogue that want to just see things crash and burn, but they don't last very long. It's the ones that want to see it succeed. It's the idea of winning at all costs versus winning at the right costs. that make sense? In the world, sometimes you're told to win at all costs. That's a lie. What you want to do is win at the right cost. You don't compromise certain things. You don't compromise your ethics. You don't compromise who you are. You don't compromise your integrity. And then when you win, you won at the right cost. That's something you can go home and be proud of. That's something you can go home and hold your head up high about. When you look your family in the eye, when you look your coworkers in the eye, when you look your friends in the eye. Okay? I think it's important to always remember as you go on in your lives, you're going to have a lot of opportunities to make money. You're going to also have a lot of opportunities to throw people under the bus. But if you can remember that it's always people over profits, you're going to be successful. So if you wanted to write something down right now, I would write down people over profits. Why? Well, that sounds like it's kind of weak. It sounds like maybe something that you wouldn't think is true. You want to have profits. You want to have money coming in. You want to be rich. You want to be as successful as you can be. But here's the thing. If you invest in people and who they really are and their desires and their wishes and what they want out of life, they're going to in turn work super hard for you, help you to fulfill your vision, and at the end of the day, I promise you, your profits will be so much higher because you have people around you that believe what you believe in. Another company I know that I've worked a little bit with, they lay off people every week. And there's so much pressure on them. Nobody feels loved. Nobody feels cared for. Nobody feels like they're a part of the team. Do they take their job seriously? No. They don't care if the company crashes and burns or if the company succeeds. It really doesn't matter to them because this company's chosen profits over people. And everybody knows that their day, maybe, the next day may be their day to lose their job. So how much emotional capital being, the output, the energy, how much emotional capital do you think you're going to get in a company like that? Almost zero. Exactly. Almost zero. You're going to have people just kind of sluggishly walking around. But if you have a company that you walk into and you know that they're going to do everything in their power to be honest with you, to be honest with the clients, to be honest in everything that they do, and they want you to be the best that you can be, and they're there to help you every day to accomplish that, how much energy do you think you're going to have when you're a part of that company? A lot more. Endless energy. Now, what if you're running a company like that? Think about what you're going to get out of the people that are working for you. Because you, as in this class, in this program, are the kinds of people that are going to be out running companies, out helping people get jobs, out making a difference in the world. So remember that. People over profits. Here's a rule to live by. I want you to write this down. This has changed my life. It's changed the way I've looked at everything. I learned it from a businessman who at the young age of 23 started his own business that is now a multi-million-dollar international business. And he's had the opportunity to do a lot of things that would maybe be unethical as far as his sales approach, as far as the way that he treats his employees. But he made a decision at the very beginning, not far from your age, that he was going to do things the right way because what he felt about himself inside was far more important than what he saw in his bank account. This is the rule. You love people and you use money and you never mix those two things up. We love people and we use money. So what that means is he decided he was going to love people and help people progress and help people become the very best that they could be, and he was going to use money to do good in the world. And he's made more money than he could probably even imagine. But what if you switch those? And all of a sudden you're the person that loves money and uses people to get more money. What kind of person are you? An awful person? That's probably putting it lightly. That's probably putting it lightly. You know those people that love money so much. Is it wrong? Is money evil? No. But the love of money is evil. When we start loving money, that's when it's evil. Right? When we love money so much that we're willing to push off our families. When we love money so much that we're willing to push off our own health. When we love money so much that we're willing to push off everything that's important in the world, including our values and what we stand for in order to gain more money, that's when we're in trouble. But if we love people and use money to do good in the world, we'll always be okay. The second you find yourself switching those around, that's when you know you're in trouble. That's a red flag. Here's another thing I've learned throughout my career. The quote, "It's just business," It's just business. That's usually a justification or an excuse to do something stupid. Is that a nice way of saying it? Almost any time I've heard anybody say it's just business, it's usually because they did something shady, they did something unethical, they did something inappropriate, and they try and something that they would never do in a normal circumstances if the people they loved were watching, but they go ahead and do it anyway because they want to chalk it up to it's just business. Like all of a sudden the rules of life, like being a decent human being, and the rules of business suddenly they're just completely different. When has that ever been the case? One of the best stories I know were the two richest businessmen in the 1930s, and one of them wanted to buy the other one's share in a huge oil company. And they were talking about it a little bit over dinner, and he said, well, make me an offer. So the guy wrote down a number on a piece of paper, slid it across the table. The other guy opened it up, looked at it. By the way, one of those names is Rockefeller, if you ever heard of them. He opened it up, said, that'll work. They shook hands, and that was the deal. That was their bond. There was no backstabbing. There was none of that went on. And these were two of the richest men in the world. Did it the right way. I know two cowboys who went out to get a loan. They'd known each other their whole lives. They went out to get a loan to be able to lease some land to run cattle. And the banker said, you need to drop a contract. And they said, why in the world do we need to drop a contract? We shook hands. We shook hands. That means something to us. Well, they ended up drawing up the contract because they had to, but their word and their handshake was much stronger than any piece of paper. Now, do I think that you should just shake hands? No. I think you should always make sure you read your contracts and sign papers and make sure that it's legit because not everybody's going to have the same values as you. But you have to stay away. If you ever hear yourself saying, well, it was just business. I only do that because it's just business. It's probably a red flag. You're not on the right track. Don't justify being an idiot. Can I put that clearer? A lot of people, they're like, well, if I just do this, this, and this, if I just work for 10 years super hard and I just kind of climb over everybody on my way, then my family's going to be super happy. Then I'm going to be super happy. Guess what? You won't be. You'll waste 10 years of your life chasing after a dream that doesn't exist. Here's a story of one person that said it was just business. I actually ran into this person. A news camera or a news team had a camera set up in an old lady's house. This guy was going door to door selling alarm systems. In this case, he was the best in the alarm selling business, whatever that means. I don't really know. Apparently, he was really good though. But he had these tactics that he called it's just business. It's not something you would normally do. Well, he knocked on the door. The old lady, who was actually an actress, opened the door and he stuck his foot in like that, so that she couldn't shut the door, and started talking about all the things that he was going to do. He ends up walking in without permission and starts pointing around at the different things that are going on. The news camera jumps out, right? And all of a sudden catches him in the act. He was charged with breaking and entering. When he was interviewed about it, guess what he said? It's just business. It's totally fine because it was just business. I'm trying to sell her something that she needs. That's a slippery slope, right? When you start thinking that kind of thing's okay. Right? If you can't stand on your own 2 feet and if your product doesn't speak for itself, you have some issues. Simon Sinek is one of the best business thinkers, I think, in the world. I think he's incredible. I think he's phenomenal. And if you have the chance to read any of his books, Sinek's incredible. Read them, for sure. He talks about business versus the military. He talks about how in World War II, he's an English fellow, he talks about how in World War II, there was this honor, basically, where people would lay down their own bodies over barbed wire so that their companions, so that their fellow soldiers could climb over them to get to safety and to further the mission. And he talked about how noble that was, right? For somebody to lay down their life on top of a grenade or on top of barbed wire so that other people could go on and be successful in their mission. He said, but in business, we have it entirely backwards, where the more people you can stab in the back, the more people that you can climb over to get ahead for yourself, the better off you are. He's like, we have it backwards in the world. In World War II, people were willing to lay down their lives for others. Today in the business world, it's far too common for us to lay down other people's lives for our own success. Just want you to remember that. Think about that for a second. Think about the difference. What changed in that mindset? What changed in that mindset? It really does make you think how backwards the world can be. Where we feel like it's okay to lie and cheat to get ahead, and hard work has disappeared. What's really the bottom line of business ethics, or leadership in general, is that we have to be true to who we are and be transparent in our motivations and in our intentions. You have to ask yourself, is it worth losing your soul? One justification, one little mistake, one little mix-up, one little lie always leads to another lie. And then you have to tell another lie to cover up that lie. And if you tell another lie to cover up that lie, pretty soon your whole life's a lie. And you can't even remember what you lied about in the first place. So it's easier just to tell the truth from the beginning. Because what does it do for you if you gain all the money in the world and lose everything that's important to you? I can't tell you how many broken men and women I've met over the years as I've traveled the country that have everything in the world except what they love most. They have all the money that they could have ever asked for, but they don't have happiness. Because money doesn't buy happiness. It may buy you cars, it may buy you boats. It may buy you the things that you think that you want, but it's not going to buy you what really matters in life. I know one guy who invented a really successful software company that you've probably heard of. He has a mansion that's bigger than anything I've ever seen. Scratch that, he had a mansion. The mansion was there. He had all the money in the world, and he ended up, when he had all that money, he thought he was invincible. When he thought he was invincible, he started doing things that were pretty inappropriate. So much so that he ended up getting a divorce. His kids stopped talking to him. In the divorce, his wife got that mansion. Of course, he still had plenty of money, but he's alone. He's sad. What was it all for? One lie led to another lie, led to another lie, led to another lie, led to him losing everything that was important to him in the beginning when he started out. And I don't know if you asked him what he would say, but I know a lot of people, if you ask them, they say that they would rather give all their success away to come back and be able to have that truth again and to start over and to be able to tell the truth, to be able to be honest, to be able to be clear and clean if they had the chance again. There's one story in my own life, and it was a habit that I had to make. I was involved in a business deal. It was worth a couple $1 million. I was very young, and I had the opportunity to make a couple $1 million, and not even a couple million, like $4 million off this deal that I brokered, I worked hard for. Here was the deal though. In order to make that deal happen, I had to cut out somebody who had been involved from the very beginning. Now, legally, I had every right to do that. In fact, I was even encouraged to do that. Legally, that was fine. But just because it's legal, that doesn't mean it's right. You know what I mean? Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right. And I remember really just contemplating over this. It just tore me apart. I was like, I could take that money and think about all the good things I could do. Think about what I could give back. Think about how my life's going to be set after that. Think about all of that. And I called some friends of mine and I just asked them about it. And I was thinking, I kind of got really close to the point where I thought it's probably good to cut this guy out. It doesn't matter that he has a wife and a baby on the way. It doesn't matter that he helped start the deal. It doesn't matter any of that. Like, legally, I'm perfectly fine to do this, so I should just do it. And then, like a complete slap in the face, the thought came to me, what will your life look like after you make this deal? And I thought about it. And I was like, you know what? I don't know. And that scares me. If I make this one decision, what about the next decision? What about the decision after that? So, I didn't cut the guy out of the deal. And guess what? The deal fell through. Through no fault of my own, through no fault of his, the deal just 100% fell through. And so there was no money at all. But the principle that I learned and the lesson that I learned was far more important than $4 million. I would say that lesson is worth millions upon millions upon millions of dollars because it's changed the way I view things. The money doesn't matter. Your principles are everything. One rule I try and live by, if you want to write it down, is you need to treat 10 cents the same way that you would treat $10. Does that make sense? So like, if I find that my friend left 10 cents on the table, well, it's not too hard to give 10 cents back, but what if it's $10? Now, you need to treat $10 the same way you treat $100. Find $100 on the table, you know it belongs to somebody else. Would you treat it the same way you would 10 cents and easily give it back? Now, what if that $100 is $1,000? And what if that $1,000 all of a sudden becomes $1 million? Are you willing to be the kind of person that treats 10 cents the same way they treat $1 million? If you are, you know you're on the right track and nobody will ever have to worry about you. If you start to question that 10 cents is different than $1 million when it comes to the right and wrong of a situation, then there might be an issue. But if there is no difference to you, if you decide right now that 10 cents and $10 million and $1 million are the exact same thing as far as your integrity and your ethics, then you're the kind of leader the world needs. Sometimes you have to decide whether to be true or whether to be liked. I know that as you go through college, as you go through your professional career, there are going to be times where people are going to ask you to do things that aren't right. And you're going to want to be liked. You're going to want to be accepted. You're going to want to be a part of that crowd that's improving and increasing. It's going to happen in your own life. It'll happen with your family. It'll happen with your friends. Of course it's going to happen professionally. But you have to decide whether you're going to be true to who you are or whether you're going to give into the world that tells you that you have to be something that you're not in order to be liked. When in reality, the people whose opinion matter most will like you more because of you standing up for who you are. Everyone tells the same story. I know 2 carpet cleaners, fantastic carpet cleaners, started a company, built it from the ground up. And they said the hardest thing is that everybody talks about being honest, and everybody talks about being ethical, and everybody talks about doing the best job. But half these companies out there, we get calls because they don't even actually use chemicals on the carpet. They just run the little vacuum cleaner over it, and somebody could have done that on their own. So everybody's telling the same story. But the question is, if everybody's telling the same story and it's easy to get away with it, what are you actually going to do? There's 2 types of people in this world. There's show horses and there's work horses. Show horses are the ones that prance around but are afraid to get their hoofs in the mud. They may look really good, but when it comes down to actual work, they're useless. Work horses are the ones that aren't pretty. They built up those muscles over just time and time in the field. They get mud all over them, but they're the ones that make things move in the world. The world has too many show horses. Your world needs more work horses. So what are you going to be? A show horse or a work horse? Are you going to be liked? Or are you going to eventually be liked because you do the right thing? When it comes to ethics in business, when it comes to ethics in life, when it comes to being a leader, not saying anything is really just becoming an accomplice. Or in other words, it's just as bad. If you see something horrible going on that's affecting other people, that's breaking the law, that's causing people to be hurt, and you don't say anything, that's just as bad as if you were a part of it. Maybe not just as bad, but it's pretty bad. Okay? You need to be the one that's willing to stand up, even if it means that you're not going to be liked, to stand up for truth, to stand up for justice, to stand up for what ultimately is good for your company, what's good for you, what's good for the people around you. Because when those things spiral out of control, people are going to come back to you and say, you knew. I just lost my job. You knew and you didn't say anything. Our company just went under. You knew and you didn't do anything. But if you're willing to stand up, even if it means that you're not liked, even if it means you may lose your job, even if it means that the world as you know it may come crumbling down, which it really isn't, but it may seem like that, you have to be the one that's brave enough to stand up for the right thing. Because you only get so many chances in life to do that. You have to take them when they come. You have to take them. Your actions create who you are. If we were to take the sum total
of everything that you do in life, right and wrong, and combine it together and mash it up and then pull it out and take a look at it in some sort of chart, how do you want it to look? Justification, justification, justification. Ignored it, ignored it, ignored it. Missed the opportunity. Oh, and then I did the right thing here. And then I did the right thing here. And that rode me through 5 more lies. Do you want it to look like that? I don't think so. Charles Dickens, celebrated author, he had a theme like that in all of his books. Christmas Carol for sure. Ebenezer Scrooge literally had everything that he could have ever wanted, money-wise. He kept himself so far away from personal relationships because he felt like that would, 1, get in the way of his money, and 2, it meant pain. And somehow in his twisted mind, he thought that money equaled happiness. Well, it didn't. Did he break the law? No. But just because it's not illegal does not mean it's right. You think about Great Expectations, the story you wrote about there, where the young man goes to become a gentleman. And along the way, he forgets about all the things that helped him out in life. And the story goes on, and I'll let you read it. But did anything he do, was it illegal? No. But did it make it right? Was it the kind of human being that he wanted to be in his purest and most noble self? I don't think it was. I think Dickens tells that incredible story because he wants us to know something. Mark Twain tells the same story, right? Victor Hugo tells the same story. There's a reason it pops up over and over in literature. There will always be this dichotomy. There will always be this question between going after what we think is going to make us happy and going after what's right and actually will make us happy. And the only people that get to decide which path we choose are sitting here in this room. Someone once said, I feel like I have 2 wolves inside of me, one wanting to do good, one wanting to do bad. The other person said, well, how do you know which wolf's going to win if they're wrestling inside of you? He said, it's the one I feed. The one I feed. If you feed the wolf that wants to do right, the wolf that wants to do bad will eventually starve. It'll be taken away from you. But if you constantly feed the one that wants to do bad, the struggle will always continue. It will always be inside you, that wrestle. You need to create good habits now. One of the things I think is most important is that if you decide now what you're going to do when that hard situation comes up, then you don't have to make the decision in the moment. I struggled when it came to that multi-million-dollar decision because I hadn't thought about it before. I never conceived that perhaps at some point in my life, I would be put in a position with high-powered executives to where I needed to make a decision whether or not I was going to do the right thing, right? You need to make that decision now. And it doesn't matter what it is. When the choice between right and wrong comes up, and wrong equals a lot of worldly things that maybe you think would be good for you, and right equals having to take the path that makes you work a little bit harder, turn down what seems like a surefire opportunity, what decision are you going to make? If you make the decision now, you don't have to make the decision then. If you make the decision now to do what's right no matter what and stick to your moral compass, then when the time comes, you don't have to ask anybody. You already know. By the way, when it comes to these surefire deals, I guarantee you'll make this much money. I guarantee, oh yeah, it's a little bit unethical, it's a little bit on the outskirts, but it's not illegal, so don't worry about it. If it looks like a duck, and it talks like a duck, and it walks like a duck, what do you think it is? It's probably a duck, okay? And anybody that tries to tell you it's a swan or a horse or a cow or a pigeon, they're probably lying to you. They're probably lying to you. It's so funny how universal these things are, right? I heard this story the other day, this joke, about pigeons. You know that pigeons, back in the day, they were used to carry messages to other people. You guys heard this? Yeah, it's these pigeons, right? And they're talking about what would happen if we combined your generation with the generation from the 1600s, like a Romeo and Juliet type of situation, right? And what's your name? Brianna. Okay, so let's say Brianna, the love of her life was from the 1600s. I'm talking, this dude's like a knight, right? He's buff and he's, just whatever you picture. He's awesome, right? And I don't know about the armor thing, but if you're into that, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, and he sends Brianna a note and it says, "Thou art my love, thou art my my sunshine and the stars up above and everything that is beautiful in the world comes to you, Brianna, And then our generation, would send back a pigeon and be like, hey, new pigeon, who dis? Right? That's tweeting, right? Back in the day. So, anyway, I just think about that, but these principles are universal. It was the same as the 1600s as it is now, right? It's the same now as it will be 20 years from now. Right is wrong. Wrong is right. That's what the world's going to tell you. But in reality, that's what they told you back in the 1600s. That's what they told you in the 1900s. That's what they're going to tell you 100 years from now. But in reality, right is right and wrong is wrong no matter what. Sure, there's some gray, but really, when we dive so much into the gray, we forget that there is a black and white kind of situation in the sense that some things are right and some things are wrong. So what are some things that you can do to create good habits to make sure that you're always ethical? Well, I think you need to practice it. I know a good man in another state who was so worried about the success he started to have that he decided that he was going to set aside money to give away every month. Didn't matter. Had to go to charity. Right? And he would set aside this money, and he also had a vacation money stash set away. And if it came down to let's say his, the pipes person in his house or something, and he had to choose whether or not to spend the vacation money on the pipes or the service money, right? The charity money, he made a decision beforehand, and no matter what, he would take the vacation money, and he would use that to pay off the bills for the house, and always keep the charity money to be used for charity. Does that make sense? He made the decision beforehand, so when the time came, he didn't have to worry about it, because then his intentions were pure. Maybe they didn't get to go on the vacation they wanted to Thailand or wherever else, so they went to Disneyland instead. I don't know, but he chose that no matter what, he was going to give, and the other rule was that he was going to give away that money without anybody knowing. Nobody would ever know the money that he gave away. He would leave it on people's doorsteps, families he knew who were struggling. He would anonymously donate it to different charities. He would do a lot of different things of that nature. But when it came down to the vacation money or the charity money, he'd always spend the vacation money for the necessities of life so that he never lost his moral compass. And he still does it to this day. You need to set aside time to serve. You can get so caught up in what you're doing. I don't know how many people I know that have worked on Wall Street that have had heart attacks by the time they're in their 40s, or they've lost their families, or they've lost so much because they're so consumed with finding success in the world that they forget about success that comes in other places. Helping a young man who doesn't have a father to maybe gain an education, to help their own family become who they need to be, setting aside time for their spouses, setting aside time to go and work with the homeless, donating their talents to people who actually could use them. Some of the best people I know are tax professionals that work countless hours, 100-hour weeks during the busy season when all of the different businesses need their taxes turned in, but yet they still somehow find time to go down to the United Way or one of these other charities to help low-income families to file their taxes. That's how you stay centered. That's how you stay real. That's how you keep yourself out of trouble, is by remembering that this whole world doesn't revolve around you. You're just a small part of this world, and the ripple that you make can go on forever. But what kind of ripple do you want to make? Ethics. This is by Potter Stewart, who is a Supreme Court justice. He said, ethics is knowing the difference between what you have a right to do and what is right to do. If you want to write that down, go ahead. Ethics is knowing the difference between what you have a right to do and what is right to do. There's a lot of things that you have a right to do. That doesn't make it right. We've talked about that. There's a lot of things that you can do that are legal, but that doesn't make it worth it. Ethics is knowing the difference between what you have a right to do and what is right to do. Can you think of a scenario in your head of things that are completely legal for you to do, but are probably wrong for your soul? You don't have to share them. But think about that. We all encounter that. Every day we encounter something like that. Some big, some small. But it doesn't change the fact if we don't set the habits and start thinking like Justice Stewart, that sometimes in life there are things that we have a right to do, but we have to think about what is right to do when it comes to how we deal with others, when it comes to how we deal with our employment, when it comes to how we lead, when it comes to how we take school into consideration, when it comes to how we treat ourselves and treat those around us. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right. You should trade the shoulds for musts. What I mean by that is like, I should be honest with that person. Even if you don't have to be, theoretically, if you take the should out and say must, I must be honest with that person. Your life's going to be a lot better. When you find yourself saying should over and over and over again, trade the word must and put that in there and see how it changes your outlook. See how it changes your attitude. I must be honest with that person. You know, I should make time to serve. I must make time to serve. You know, I should let my boss know about what happened today. I must let my boss know about what happened today. I really should be more trustworthy. I must be more trustworthy. Trade the shoulds for the musts, and you become a powerful human being. The one kind of person in the world that somebody can always trust no matter what. That's really what you want to be. You want to be the kind of person that your boss, when they look at you, they say, you know what? I could leave the room. I could leave for Hawaii. I could do whatever I want to and know that if I came back, they would be doing the exact same thing that when I'm gone as they'd be doing if I was there. That's a pretty good place to be. That's a pretty good place to be. If your ethics and your decisions and your work ethic and everything about you doesn't change just when your boss leaves the room. Like I said before, make the decision way beforehand how you're going to act so when the time comes, the decision's already been made. It takes the pressure off you, and it causes you to be a greater person than you could have even imagined. Create your own code of conduct. I think that's something that we really don't do in life. I like to draw it up like this, okay? Just here on the board, I like to draw it up and say, I have one of these for myself. I will always... and I will never. And I have a list of things in each of these columns that I just absolutely will not compromise. I will always do certain things, and I will never do other things. Am I perfect? Absolutely. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not perfect at all. But I strive so hard to do this. One thing is, I will always make time for those that I care about. That's one thing that I try and always do. Am I perfect? No, but I will always strive to do that until I'm perfect at it. Okay? I will never chase money at the expense of my soul. Learned it from hard experience, really hard experience. But I'm grateful for that because now I know that it's not worth it. Money comes, money goes. We should take care of our money. We should use it to do good for people. But I'm never going to go chasing money at the expense of my own ethics and what I'm about. I will always be true to myself. I will never go out and lie. It's just not something I'm going to do. Now, those are just a few of my code of conduct. You need to create your own code of conduct. Maybe that's an assignment you should do in class. Maybe it's something you should do. It shouldn't consist of more than 10 things in either line, because really you get pretty general, right? I will never be demeaning to an individual just because they're different than me. I will always look for something positive out of each day. These are just examples of other people that I've worked with that have code of conducts like mine. And it's up to you, whatever you want to do. One thing I want to talk about, it's a little personal to me, is how you need to focus on your integrity more than your reputation. Who can tell me the difference between integrity and your reputation? I'm about to explain it to you. You guys ready? Reputation is what others think about you, what others say about you, what others choose to put out to the world. Your integrity is completely up to you. It's what really is going on inside your heart. It involves your motivations, your actions, your decisions. It's basically everything that you're about. and nobody can define it. Really, it comes down to whether or not you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, and whether you can trust yourself. That's your integrity. Here's the catch. Your reputation can be ruined by one tweet. Your reputation can be ruined by a rumor. Your integrity, though, the only person that can take that away from you is you. Your integrity is completely up to you. Doesn't matter what people say. Your reputation can be out the window, but your integrity belongs to you. So you need to focus more on your integrity, what you know is true about yourself, than you do about your reputation, which is what others externally think about you. Somebody can go out and just decide they don't like you and decide to make a huge deal out of it. Maybe some people believe it. You can't control that. But your integrity, you can. Who you really are, what you really stand for, your code of conduct, what you want to be, what you will be. What do you want your lasting legacy to be? You need to be the example of leadership that you want to see in others. You want to be the kind of leader that people can trust. You want to be the kind of leader that leads those that don't even know they're being led. You want to be the leader that people look back on and say, I learned so much from them because they stood for what was right. They put people first. They had integrity to their very core. And they made a difference in the lives of others. That's the kind of leader that I want you to be. That's the kind of leader that you can be. And that's the kind of leader that the world needs. So thank you.